The 1960s promised a utopia for the Western world, but by the end of the decade, those grand visions were fracturing against the hard pavement of political turmoil. A profound spiritual malaise settled over an entire generation. Joan was a representative of this specific cultural exhaustion. She was a young American woman plagued by an unnamed hunger, carrying a deep realization that material comforts and political debates were failing to satisfy her need for purpose. Instead of looking for answers at home, she packed her bags and joined a massive migration of Western youth. She embarked on the fabled Hippie Trail, an epic, grueling overland route that stretched from Europe down into South Asia. This was a physical manifestation of an internal quest. Every physical border crossed and every ancient ruin explored served to systematically strip away the preconceived notions she had brought from the West. The lofty spiritual goals of these travelers stood in sharp contrast to the gritty, exhausted reality of the road. It required thousands of miles of dusty, back-breaking transit through rugged terrain. When the structures of home fail to provide a sense of internal meaning, an entire generation will physically uproot itself and endure extreme discomfort to find it elsewhere. In 1970, Joan found herself inside a humble, bustling restaurant in Kabul, Afghanistan. It was a mundane setting, far removed from the silent ashrams or ancient temples one might expect to house a turning point in a life's journey. Sitting amid the smell of local spices, Joan overheard a group of English adventurers chatting at a nearby table. They were passing around rumors about a young boy residing in India whom they affectionately called the Master. Those rumors redirected her entire journey. The vague, intellectual wandering she had practiced for months vanished, replaced by a targeted, heart-centered pursuit toward India. Significant shifts in our life's trajectory rarely arrive with thunderous pronouncements. They usually arrive as quiet, serendipitous whispers across a crowded table, planting a seed that demands a response. By 1970, Joan had finally made it to a porch in Dehradun, a city nestled in the Himalayan foothills. Her heart was pounding as she waited to meet the subject of her grueling journey. Out walked Prem Rawat. He was exactly 12 years old. He looked at her, cut straight through the pleasantries, and asked bluntly, "What do you want?" Stripped of her intellectual armor, Joan gave a raw, unfiltered reply. "I want peace." The young guru offered no comfort. He challenged her to search all of India first, and told her to come back only if she still wanted what he had. This established a dynamic based on personal effort and inquiry, rather than simple acceptance. A few months later, Joan stood in the crowd during the historic November 1970 speech in Delhi. There, the young teacher declared his intention to establish world peace, an event his followers dubbed the Peace Bomb that fully ignited her belief. Demanding a seeker validate their own desire through individual effort creates a foundation for devotion far more resilient than one built on easy answers. Joan returned to the United States in April 1971. The isolated seeker was gone. In her place was a driven evangelist, determined to share the discovery she had found in India. She immediately launched a relentless campaign. Day after day, Joan bombarded Prem Rawat with urgent Western Union telegrams, pleading with him to visit America and share what he had with her culture. Her persistence worked. By July, she helped organize his first U.S. event in Los Angeles. The scene was chaotic and electric, with eager crowds packing into halls, dripping from the rafters to hear him speak. Joan became a primary voice for the Divine Light mission. Her grounded New York sensibility allowed her to act as a vital translator, bridging complex spiritual concepts for a skeptical Western audience through her own direct experience. By 1973, this momentum culminated in Millennium 73. Joan found herself co-emceeing an event inside the massive Houston Astrodome, a gathering on a scale that few spiritual movements had ever achieved. The energy Joan brought from the East, expressed through those frantic telegrams and tireless organizing, transformed a single person's discovery into a massive gathering in the heart of Texas. The euphoria of the early 70s eventually met reality. By the middle of the decade, a painful schism tore through Prem Rawat's family, fracturing the organization he had built. This internal turmoil tested the loyalty of followers, stripping away those only attached to the external community or the novelty of the movement. Through the chaos, Joan remained steadfast. Her commitment was anchored to the internal experience of peace she had been taught, regardless of the challenges facing the organization. Belief systems survive institutional crises only when followers can separate the flawed human machinery of an organization from the core inner truth it initially provided. Fast forward to the 1980s, and Joan had built a much quieter life in Woodstock, New York. The frantic evangelism of her youth evolved into a practical approach to well-being. She integrated her spiritual knowledge with holistic healing practices like polarity therapy, using her insights to help others find balance. Years later, reflecting in the documentary series Passages, Joan looked back at her younger self with a remarkable, quiet grace. She humorously admitted that she had been a drama queen back then, acknowledging the intensity of her youth. But beneath that self-deprecating humor, she made one unwavering assertion. While her behavior and the world around her evolved, the core feeling in her heart never altered. The intensity of her youth eventually gave way to a quiet, lifelong practice. While her outward behavior matured and evolved, the core experience found on that porch in India remained her anchor for over 50 years.